Hello everyone and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined today by Ewan Patterson because we have some news about HBO Max, the new streaming service about to be debuted by HBO, because last year Bad Robot, JJ Abrams' production company, signed a deal with Warner Media, which was essentially a first look deal for his projects and his production company's next projects. And 3 of them have gone to series and are going to debut on the new streaming service. And a few of them are pretty big and will give the service itself quite a strong launch, in my opinion. But Ewan has more information from us and we'll jump into the juicy details.
It is very juicy. Do you remember? It's not Justice League. It's Juicy League.
Very good.
The juiciest league. Anyway, remember Justice League Dark? Remember that project that Guillermo del Toro actually had, lined up. It was one of his big projects that he said he was going to do, and then he never got around to doing it because he's Del Toro. That's what he does.
Yeah, one of the many projects Guillermo del Toro has in mind, and then gets dashed because we're all looking forward to it too much.
Yeah, and obviously after that, the Bourne Identities, Doug Liman actually came in to direct it, and then that never happened, and at that point it was called Dark Universe, but then Universal had their own Dark Universe, and we don't talk about that unless your name's Josh Brown, and then it also got renamed back to Justice League Dark, and then the other year they finally announced that JJ Abrams and his production company Bad Robot were actually optioning, some Justice League Dark material for HBO and their own upcoming streaming service, which is of course HBO Max, which spells some questions for the DC Universe streaming service. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But yeah, obviously they've already announced a Green Lantern TV show, which is being helmed by Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti. And then HBO confirmed yesterday that Abrams is in fact working on a Justice League Dark TV show, along with several other projects, which are quite interesting as well. But yeah, that's big news. It's finally happening.
Yeah, like you said, Justice League Dark is a title that keeps popping up for well over a decade now, and it's almost one of those mythical projects, kind of like the Dark Tower was before that horrible movie came out, that everyone is kind of looking forward to, but sort of, at least in my opinion, I just want to see it. I just want to see some form of it come out, and I didn't expect to have to wait until HBO launched a streaming service, but I do think this would be quite a good platform for it. You mentioned, the other DC shows that have been debuted on, like Titans and stuff, I guess, which I must admit, I have not watched Titans, right? But everything I've seen from that show sounds bad, but at the same time, HBO did a great job with Watchmen, adapting that, and kind of changing things around. So I have faith in Bad Robot. I have faith in the property, and I have faith in HBO to not want to, treat this property poorly, because this is going to be one of the big shows out the gate. One of the shows with, even though people might not be familiar with the members of Justice League Dark, the fact that you have Justice League in the title, and you have a big, DC brand on your platform, is a huge deal. So I can't see them, treating it with anything other than the utmost respect. Hopefully, anyway. That's my optimistic take.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing you point out there, Josh, is that the Justice League Dark are actually a relatively new property. They were only kind of formulated in 2011 with the advent of the New 52, which is the comic book reboot I don't talk about anymore. But at the same time, the characters that are involved with the team are very old and very storied. You have the likes of John Constantine. Yes, it is pronounced Constantine. Just look at any comic. Please stop telling me it's pronounced Constantine. It's not. And then also you have the likes of Zatanna, Deadman, whose real name is Boston Brand. He was an actual acrobat that worked at the same Haley Circus, the same place Dick Grayson's parents got killed on. Lots of bad things happening at that circus, it turns out. And then he basically has a spiritual experience when he gets killed, and he becomes a ghost who can possess anyone he wants to. There's Etrigan the Demon, who only speaks in slam poetry.
Interesting.
Which is really cool. It's actual, proper old poetry. But again, everything has to rhyme if your name's Etrigan. This whole thing that he does when he transforms is gone the form of man, rise the demon Etrigan, which is really, really cool.
Right, are they going to have the the brass courage to adapt that character Ewan Stretch thing? Because I want to see that.
If you look at the original design, he is just wearing a really extravagant one piece with a cape. He is also a demon with wings. He has wings on his face. He's great. Etrigan's really, really cool. I really like Etrigan. Obviously, there are other characters involved. Currently, in the comics, Wonder Woman is actually the leader of Justice League Dark. It's a really good series going on right there. She's unlikely to appear, I would argue. But at the same time, DC, more so than Marvel, has such an abundance of great supernatural characters. You have the likes of Dr. Fate, you could call on the Phantom Stranger, all sorts of different people who could be involved in the show. And obviously, if you've been keeping up with the DC Universe streaming service, you'll know that Swamp Thing had a very short-lived season last year, obviously due to, some tax discrepancies that went on with their shooting. I believe it was North Carolina, I can't remember. But again, there's a question to be asked there if maybe Swamp Thing could appear in this show. And certainly, even though I believe it's Matt Ryan who plays Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow, and he was in the NBC show as well. Curious to see if he could have any potential involvement with this as well, because there are two very big contrasting tones going on right there.
That's what I was going to ask. That was my big question, because obviously, Constantine, like you said, he's had his own show. He's been now moved to other shows. So will there be a rights issue with that, or will it just be a sort of different version of the character that we see? Because maybe that's okay. I don't know quite how those legalities work in terms of this show.
The interesting thing here, or the not really interesting, just kind of weird thing, is that we've been talking about this project for so long that you can actually go back and see Guillermo del Toro commenting on whether or not the Justice League Dark show and the NBC Constantine TV series can actually coexist, which is amazing. And you know what? I think Matt Ryan is a really good Constantine. I think, he's been hamstrung by the networks that he's been, allowed to do the character on, and I think if he was actually given full reign to do an authentic Hellblazer, that could be really cool. At the same time, I don't really mind if they recast him, as long as they can pull off an authentic Scouse accent. That's really what it's about.
You just like, can you play Constantine? Is that your dream role? In some form, maybe. I do aspire to be a chain-smoking occult detective. All I'm saying is I've got a lot of time on my hands, so if I start a petition and you see that on the internet, you'll know where it came from. There is another big show that we should touch on as well, which is honestly piqued my interest a little bit more, because I don't know what they're going to do with it. But this
because you're not a nerd, Josh.
Because
Brown,
I'm not a nerd.
why.
That's it. It's because I grew up on The Shining, sadly not Justice League Dark, even though the ages don't match up there, whatever. But yes, it's this Shining prequel show essentially called The Overlook, obviously named after the Overlook Hotel in that movie and that book, and the Doctor Sleep book and follow-up as well. This has piqued my interest because this was described as almost like a Bates Hotel-esque prequel to The Shining.
When is the Bates Motel Shining crossover going to happen?
Here we are. This is it. I didn't know I needed this, and I'm not sure whether I want it, but obviously Stephen King adaptations are absolutely huge at the moment. We've had the likes of Castle Rock on Prime. We've had, obviously It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. We had the movie Doctor Sleep last year. We've had a bunch of Netflix adaptations, and this seems to be, doubling down on that. What they're going to do with it, I have no idea. For me, the beauty of the original Shining movie, not the novel, because obviously they're very different, is that the Overlook Hotel is kind of steeped in mystery, and the ghosts there are so interesting and intriguing and mysterious because you only see flashes of them. To have a whole show based around that hotel and the goings-ons there before Jack Torrance and his family turns up is certainly something I'm going to want to see. I'm going to want to watch, but whether or not that's a concept I'd want them to push forward with is something I'm conflicted about, even going backwards and forwards on this video.
You definitely don't want it to be the Explainer, the TV show, do you? I mean, so much of the horror in The Shining, like you said, comes from the fact that we know so very little about the actual thing itself. So, yeah, like you said, I really hope that it's not going to be a case of, explaining why the guy in the bear suit is doing that thing in the room, or why there's the old lady in the bathroom, and all that sort of thing. However, I would be interested to see, if we get some... almost make it, I'm trying to figure out the right word here, but something that was maybe more self-contained, and you look at the Overlook Hotel over the ages, so you have all the different kind of, not the explanation for everything, as you say, but maybe I would certainly like the idea of maybe the barman being the thing that anchors every era of the hotel together, potentially. I don't know if that would be interesting. I've only seen The Shining once or twice, so I know very little about the lore of the thing. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I suppose the big question is whether they're going to be faithful to what Stephen King, has written in his 2 books and his adaptation, or whether they're going to have kind of free reign to do whatever they want. Because you mentioned there, perhaps you could have an anchor character, I don't know, like you said, like the bartender or something, and maybe make it a sort of anthology show showing what happened.
That's the anthology.
There you go.
What a concept.
Yeah, essentially American Horror Story, but better. You know what I mean? Have something a bit looser with the law like that might be able to keep each season contained or something. I think there's a lot of promise with it. It depends what they do. It's being apparently the writer of Castle Rock, which is that Stephen King, crossover universe, is on to write for it. And I didn't know I needed Bates Motel before that happened. I thought that was a bad idea, and I was proven wrong. A lot of people love that show, and it turned out really well in the end, at least in the later
I did
seasons.
watch the first 2 seasons. I didn't watch anything afterwards, which is apparently when it got really good.
You know what? A lot of additional TV series or movies that follow the original Psycho are actually quite good. The original sequels are pretty decent.
Psycho 2. Have you seen Psycho? Psycho 2
is pretty good.
I really want to see Psycho 2.
Psycho 2 is worth watching. And the only bad thing in there, Ewan, is the Vince Vaughn remake. That's probably the only bad Psycho-related thing we've got recently. I don't know.
Can't believe you've just reminded me of that. I was all there in my little Anthony Perkins dream, and then you've just brought it back down with
Vince Vaughn, the ultimate Norman Bates. And I guess on that note, we'll hand it over to the comments. What do you guys want to see from a Justice League Dark TV show? And are you looking forward to The Overlook, which doesn't really roll off the tongue? I want to call it the Overlook Hotel every single time I mention it, but yes, how would you want to see that play out? Either way, while you're down in the comments, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more list news like this every single day. Even if you don't know, I've been Josh. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Broom with 2 O's. I've been joined by Ewan, who you can follow on Twitter at
Ewan Ruins Things.
And we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.